Hi, Jen. Welcome to the Into the Woods podcast. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Y'all, we have the with two E's, Jennifer Castillo Staats, on the podcast today. If you live in Cincinnati, you don't know who Jen is, and you're interested in the spiritual, you need to wake up because she's kind of a big deal.
Jeez. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. But seriously, you are such an amazing healer. I see you on a regular basis. You have so many credentials to your wonderful name. And I'm just looking at your website as I read this. You're a professional practitioner of the intuitive arts, a crystal healer, spiritual wellness, an intuitive coach, an educator. You have classes. You do energy work on the table. You're a Reiki master. You're a shaman, which I know you're not going to say that you are, but you are because I can say it. But you form communities. You're indigenous Mexican. You have so much to you and so much that you practice and so much that you do to give back to the community. And I am so grateful that I found you in the way that one does in the spiritual community, where you get obsessed with one part of it and then you become obsessed with another part of it. And then you get referred to this person to that person. The next thing you know, you've got an entire library of people that you see on a regular basis. And such is my life.
Yes, being connected, that divine intervention. I love it.
It is magic. And I refer everybody in my life to you because you've helped me so much.
Thank you for that.
And I just love our time together because it is truly just so wonderful. And I'm so grateful to have you on this new episode, new segment of the Wayfinders. And for anybody that hasn't listened to any of these other episodes yet, to me, creating this segment was important because I wanted to give back to all the women that have helped me find my way in the last couple years since becoming a mom and going through postpartum anxiety with my second and having 2 under 2 for a little while and getting the spiritual, mental, physical help that I have needed has been such a godsend, and you have been a huge part of that for me. And so this is my way of giving back. I'm thanking you, but also to broadcast what you do, and hopefully that there's others that are questioning what they need and they may not know exactly the answer to that. And so to the extent that I can share a little bit of my world with someone else and that they can also find you and find their way, that is the point of this, and which is why it's so important for me to have you on the Wayfinders.
I love that. Thank you. You know that you and I have talked about how I feel really, truly that we heal best in community. And I feel like a big piece of that is, cultivating the community. And you're so fabulous at that. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, I gave a little bit of your background, and so you can repeat or embellish anything that I said, but I'd love for you to talk about your business of the essence and what you do and who you see and how you got into it, and whichever order you'd like to go in.
Fabulous. Well, I really kind of started dabbling in this work really young. My gifts were apparent at a very young age. I was very lucky to have been connected to some great teachers starting at a very young age, that divine intervention. I think I had my first reading from an elder when I was 11 or 12 years old. And that was when the seed was planted about my gifts. Because I wasn't at the place in my life where I'd been around a lot of other people or people like myself. And I was one of those people that just thought that what I did was what everybody did. I didn't realize that it was anything different until I had a teacher in front of me point it out. And it really, from there, it just flourished. That was back in the time, I'm dating myself here, but there was no internet really. You didn't go to the internet to seek answers. Maybe back then when the internet was just first starting, you went there to seek connection. But, that was the time when we were still going to libraries and bookstores.
Yeah.
And, it really kind of pushed me to dig deeper. And then also my own healing journey. And I kind of came from a place geographically, like I grew up a good chunk of my adolescence in a place that was predominantly white, upper middle class. And I did not grow up upper middle class. I grew up more on the poverty side of things. And being a mixed indigenous person in a predominantly white place, I had to seek teachers that were aligned with kind of more who I was. And so did that. And also, was at this place where I was like, okay, I recognize I'm a little bit different. At that point in my life, it was something that was kind of uncomfortable in some ways because I wanted to blend more than I wanted to stick out, kind of. And that I was like, well, I know I'm a helper. I know it's in me and it drives me. And so in my heart and mind, I thought therapy is a way that I can utilize my gifts to help people in a way that feels more normal. And that is what I did. I went to college and I got degrees in social work and became a social worker therapist and practiced for almost 20 years as a traditional social worker therapist, all of the time developing my spiritual gifts, honing in more on them, working with teachers, working on my own healing journey, and really about a decade ago, a little over a decade ago, I started working with a particular teacher and healer who was really, really, really helpful in helping me make the transition from working as a traditional social worker therapist to this holistic practice of the essence that I have now that is really focused on mind, body, spirit from the spiritual and energetic perspective, which has really allowed me to kind of take all my gifts and show up authentically who I am every single day to help people navigate their spiritual wellness journeys, their mind, body, spirit journeys. And so out of that, the wellness studio of the essence, my business was born, and a decade later, it has grown, and we've helped so many people, and I'm so incredibly proud. It started in a really super small basement studio, and it only took me 1 year there to realize that I had already outgrown it, and then here we are today. We have classes, I have clients all over the world. I travel to teach and to see people and it's fabulous and I love it so much and I feel so blessed to be able to do this work and to meet wonderful people like you and walk on wellness journeys with people. It is some of the most gratifying things that have ever happened in my life.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing, the journeys that we take and where we start out and the things that we seek and what it sparks in us. And it's so interesting that you had these gifts. And in what context were these coming up for you and that you were like, because 10, 11 is like, I was raised in Catholicism, so very different. And it's only now in my 30s that I'm like, okay, this is sort of like, but to be that young and, what was coming up for you at that time that you were like, I need to talk to somebody about what's happening?
Yeah. So, being somebody who grew up mixed indigenous, I have a lot of different parts to me. And some parts I was like, especially in my lineage and in my like nuclear family, my biological family. And I really wasn't, it was interesting because it wasn't really nurtured when I was super young. It wasn't until I was older that it was nurtured. I think that part of that, what I had mentioned before about I wanted to do something normal was kind of something that was learned in my family. Assimilation is a big thing. And I think that, what I knew at a very young age was that Christianity, Catholicism did not resonate with me. There were parts of it that did, but as a whole, it didn't. And I started asking questions and I intuitively wasn't getting the answers that I knew were in alignment. And so I went seeking and also I talked to actually this recently came up with my father. I think one of the times that he really knew that it was in me, we had just moved back from Europe because I spent my first almost 10 years of life growing up in Europe. When we came back to the States, we lived in this house that had a lot of activity in it. It was a very old house. There was a lot of activity in the house. And The house, honestly, it scared me because I didn't really know what was going on. I just knew there was things that made me uncomfortable that were happening at first. And then I did realize what was going on. There was spirit communication. And what was happening was I was afraid, and I didn't want it to happen. So what would happen was, in the middle of the night, I would get tickled on the feet and the armpits as a way to wake me up. And that would scare me because I didn't realize what it was. And then I would yell for my parents, and then my parents were like, nothing's here, and I talked to my dad about that now, and he's like, I'm so sorry. Like, right? Because that's what was happening. And I think that was like their first real inkling that something divine was going on, right? Something was going on. And then from there, just moving forward, I was always really connected to ancestors, to spirit. I was doing ancestor work before I even had any definition for it. It was just, I was divinely guided by my guidance and intuitively. And I was also one of those kids that, given the opportunity, I would be outside in the woods by myself from morning to sundown when I was required to be home. And I would spend all my time there. And a lot of times it would be alone. Well, I mean, alone, like, me and the spirit team, but it would be me and the spirits of our plant relatives and the animal relatives and the tree relatives, and really like connecting to that. And that was where it started to grow and flourish even more and more. And from there, it just kind of took off as spirit placed teachers in my path. For anybody who works with me has heard this. I believe we should have many teachers in our life, and that, yes, they come in forms of elders and and practitioners, but also books and plants and animals and grandfather sun and grandmother moon. And we should have many teachers. And I have been blessed to have some really fabulous teachers who have not only taught me what I need to know to do this work respectfully and safely, but also to allow me the opportunity to do my own healing.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? So when you were noticing they were tickling your feet and things like that, is it kind of like that realization of, wait, I'm the one they can talk to. I'm the one who can hear them. I'm the one who can receive this. And then kind of seeing the distinction that a lot of other people maybe weren't able to tap into that.
Yeah, well, honestly, I think that where I was cognitively at that age, I didn't like I didn't really quite have the capacity to even think about it like that. What I knew at that time was I was scared. I didn't know what was going on. Like, why was this happening to me? Right? Like, why was this happening to me more so than, oh, this is happening to me, So I mean, I speak about it like it was like this fluid, like, oh, it's easy. No, it took years of work. And I am still, I tell people this all the time, I am still discovering answers and information. Like, when I show up in my practice and in everyday life, it is through the lens of all the things that I've learned, but also my own personal experiences, because that's where I can teach from. And, and, uh, and that is where some really deep and valuable gifts have come up for me. And so, yeah, it was a process. Now I don't get afraid. I have a healthy respect, even for the things that do come up that are a bit scary sometimes. But now I understand, and I have the tools, and that, my friends, is why I do what I do. That's why I came into it, because I feel like empowerment is our biggest healing tool, and that if we can learn, then we can utilize, we can grow, we can heal. And also, I think it's important for people to have access to the information so they don't feel afraid, so they don't feel alone, so they don't feel weird. They don't feel like they have to do something normal if it's not what's in them. And also, listen, I'm not saying, I am so thankful for the work that I did as a social worker therapist. I'm so thankful for all of the experiences and the knowledge and I spent my whole career working for nonprofits, and I am so thankful for those experiences and for that profession. And the shift happened, and it evolved.
Yeah. And at that point, you just realize my gifts are leading me to something a little different so that I can help in the most potent way that I'm able, right? And
Yes.
you
Yeah.
build on that and you realize, okay, this is a great profession, but I'm really more well equipped and suited for this. And that's going to be where I really shine.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like I look back in retrospect and people ask me all the time, like, why did you go into social work instead of like a doctorate in psychology or any of those things? And I was like, honestly, the thing that resonated with me the most is out of all of those helping professions, the social work profession and studying social work resonated the strongest with me because the part of the ethics is we look at the whole person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The whole being, their socioeconomic, their gender, their ethnicity. We look at it all and we help them through that lens. And so that's why it really resonated me. But also I felt like I was bound in a place where I couldn't do what I knew could be helpful for mind, body, and spirit. It was like I was getting the information and I could do certain things with it, but I was bound by certain rules that didn't align with who I was authentically. And it became like I always followed said rules, right? But it became harder for me to show up every day and utilize the full spectrum of who I am to help people. And so I actually retired at the height of my career. And there were definitely people in my life who were like, you're crazy. What are you doing? And I was like, no, I am divinely guided and it is in me and I know it. And I don't have to know the whys or the hows. I just need to know that that is what I need to do. And I did. And here we are. We are.
It's not that crazy. It's like the concept of the stock market, sell high and buy low. And you were like, hey, I've maximized my talents here and it's been great. But like, there's just this calling. And I'm sure, and you can elaborate of, your 20 years in social work, you still had your teachers that were helping you with learning all of these skills and these gifts that you have until it reached the threshold, obviously, where it was like, okay, I need to create a different experience. And I now am so comfortable with, and of course, we're always still learning, but to the point where it's like, I can build something with this because I understand my gifts and how to use them and how I can really help people in a different way than I've for 20 years.
Yeah. Well, and the other piece of that, right, is the whole time that I was, I was always doing the spiritual work with people, we'll say on the side. I was always in my personal life doing this kind of work and people would come to me for these things. So it was always like, it's funny because I say, 99% of my business is word of mouth and referrals. And it's been that way always because even then when I was younger, it would be, hey, I know somebody who can help you with that, right? I know a gal. And so it's interesting how that evolution kind of, how that took place. But, I think also another thing that I want to point out is I was doing my own healing work the whole time too. And I think that, part of divine timing is recognizing, when you're ready, listen to the call. And it wasn't that I hadn't been told that by so many more people before that one particular healer and I started doing that work. Many people had told me this is what you should be doing. And there was like fear and there was things that I had to heal and navigate on my own still before I was ready to make that transition. And it wasn't until I had done that I was ready. And when I was, I remember her saying, I'm not trying to be cliche when I say this, but if you do it, they will come. I was like, yeah, a little bit. And but also she was right.
Yeah.
It was day one. From day one, it has been nothing but growth and expansion. And the thing that I'm the most proud about with that is not only all the like help, the support and help that we've given people on their journeys, but the fact that I have been able to do that by showing up authentically who I am every single day. And that, the social work profession, a lot of professions, right? Especially helping professions, is you have your professional life, you have your personal life. And of course, we all have to have healthy boundaries around that, right? Work-life balance.
Right.
But there's fluidity for me there. Who I am in my personal life is also who I am here at the wellness studio when I do this work. I have allowed myself the freedom in my healing to show up authentically who I am every single day, and do that work with people in that way. So it's become so much more fluid. And for me personally, there's a lot of freedom in that.
Yeah. Yeah. You were talking. Oh, go ahead, Kara.
So I was going to say that just when we're working with others, our energy is so directly impactful to them. So you doing your own work and all the practitioners out there doing that is so helpful, because if you don't, you can actually lower their vibration as well if you are not operating from a good frequency. It doesn't mean we have to have it all figured out, but at least doing the work, showing up, walking the talk, all those things. And then that helps to uplift the clients. Or else you hear the stories of how, energy and frequency gets lowered. And I think that's a direct result of the practitioner's dedication to their own craft and their own work.
Yeah, it's incredibly important, we're vessels. It's important that we're clear vessels, that we're clear channels. And that does require a lot of work. It requires a lot of work. It doesn't matter who you are and what your history is, whether you've not had traumas or you have, right? Like, being a clear channel is important. It's the ethical and responsible thing to do for all of us. And yes, it does help us raise the collective vibration even more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
I think about that. We were talking about how important it is to feel empowered and to have teachers that help you remember that about yourself and to live in empowerment and this vibration energy that we're talking about of, it is amazing now for me to wake up every day and I am doing exactly what I am meant to do. And for the last 4.5 years, I've been just doing a job and doing the work I really want to do on the side. And you want to talk about energy? Like, if people didn't feel just frustration, I mean, I obviously voiced it because I'm a communicator, but it is like incredible when you make the choice to live in alignment with who you are and what you're meant to do, and how powerful you become when you are living your truth and your energy is high and you're able to give fully from your soul of what you're meant to do in this lifetime. And I just, every day I get more and more grateful. And I start with that every day, which is important, of just thank you that I have this. And divine timing we were talking about, of just how this year has been for me in my year 9. And it's been the best. This has been such an amazing year of growth and transformation. And you've been with me, Jenn, from the highs and the lows.
And what a blessing.
Yeah. And thank God. Thank all the gods, the goddesses, Mother Earth, for you helping me get through it, because we can't go backwards, but I am like, wow, even with the job change into my passion, like, where would my mindset have been but for the fact that you empowered me to be this person that is ready for this and to be so trusting of the signs and my guides and the messages that you were giving to me, and me also trusting myself to receive the downloads, to step into this new life. Like, let's go. This is everything.
Yeah, I think that, one of my favorite parts of doing this work is being able to be a cheerleader for people, right? Because, part of the responsibility that we have as healers is to, well, in my opinion, from my perspective, is to help people step back into their power, right? At some point down the line, a lot of us get kind of knocked off of that path of empowerment. And, part of my job is to help people remember. And there's lots of different ways of doing that, right? Like you and I have done work, you've seen some of them. There's lots of different ways of doing that depending on, what's going on. But what's most important is, yes, that's what it is. We all have soul level gifts, all of us, every single being walking this earth and beyond. We have soul level gifts. And what we are being called to do is remember them. And so I like to help people explore that and pull it out of them a bit, and show them the proof that they have them, and to help strengthen that connection with higher self, with the oneness with the spirit team, to know that we have resources available to us inside of us first, and then we can go outside of us, and to help people connect to tools that resonate. And it's such a wonderful thing to watch and to participate in. I like to think of myself as somebody who co-creates wellness with people. It's funny. I was just talking about this the other day with somebody. They were like, what do you tell people that you do when they ask you?" Right. And I'm like, well, first of all, I read the room, right? Like, I'm like, I read the audience. Like, where are we here, right? Because there's a continuum of the verbiage that I can use.
Yep.
And one of my like favorite things to tell people is, "Oh, I cultivate safe spaces and love people for a living," right? Like that's what I do, And then, they'll be like, "Tell me more about that." And we go from there. But really, like, when we strip away all the titles and all the things that I've learned and all the things that I teach, at the core of it, that is what I do. Is in my heart of hearts, that is what I do. I cultivate safe places with people and for people, and I love them through their healing journeys. Now, does that mean I teach them things? Yes. Does that mean, we strengthen gifts and intuition? Yeah. I mean, there's lots of different ways we get that. But again, if we strip all that away, that's really what I feel like I'm doing. And I feel very blessed to be able to do that. I feel very blessed that I was given the opportunity in this lifetime to do this work.
Yeah. You are a blessing. And I
Thank
love
you.
every session we've had. And I love having a cheerleader because, as we know, one of my, and I've talked about this, so, listeners are aware of it, but, I went from being a lawyer and a wealth advisor to a numerologist, astrologer, very different things, like you were in the same kind of work. And then you're like, well, I'm really just I'm going to be fully me now. And now we're using crystals, and now we're listening to indigenous music while I do sessions. And this is what's happening. And whereas my biggest struggle has been feeling able to speak my truth and be my truth in this very different passion that I'm living out. When I was, you were talking about the need to assimilate. It's like, yeah, I was very much living a life that was a should. And I am, similar to you, very grateful for my past. And it's a huge part of who I am. And it's a huge part of how I operate the Divine Feminine Collective. But it has been so hard to feel the need to justify what I'm doing and explain what I'm doing and who I am. And it's just like my throat chakra all the time is like, Jenn, help me. How many crystals can we put on my neck? Clear, like, which I love. And I would love for you to explain like what a session is like, when people show up, we're going here, we're going there. This is what the experience is like.
Yeah.
Because it's been hard, but you have been huge in helping me like, okay, remember, like this is what you're meant to do. And this is fine. Not everyone's going to get it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's true. Not, I'll say this, there was a time when I felt like I needed to explain myself too, right? Like there was definitely a time. And then again, I did work around it. And now I'm to the place where I'm like, I don't need to justify my gifts, myself, my process to any single person at all. I am to the place where I am like, I love everybody. I mean, I can I can really say I love everybody. Love and like are two different things, right? I mean, keeping the vibe high, we love everyone at a soul level. Not everyone has to like me. I'm not for everyone. My message is not for everyone. And it's the same with you. And it's, and it can be even people in our lives. And, when we look through the lens of everything is energy, everything, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, my cup of coffee, this phone, all of it, right? And what we're working with is raising vibration. Part of what we're working with is raising vibration. What you find is that when you do that, people, places, things, situations, all of those things that are not in alignment with that vibration kind of just tend to fall away, right? So when that starts to happen and you start to see that happening, energy doing its thing, right? And you seeing tangible proof of it, you start to feel like, it all speaks for itself. I don't really need to invest the energy in that. Now I'm not being dismissive and like we don't have any like social responsibility, being that we're having a human existence this time around, right?
Right.
But we get to define that for ourselves and what that looks like. And going in with an open heart and saying, I love and respect me. I hope other people do too, but if they can't, that's okay too. It's not a reflection on who I am.
Right.
And it's also that knowing that you are doing the right thing by you. And I think the more you sit into that knowing, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, a lot of that starts to fade away as you continue moving down that path. Because as you get into the shoulds, I should be a wealth advisor, I should be a social worker, right? Like society says that's best, right? But if that's not, you're not going to show up. Your energy isn't going to be as expansive and beautiful and touching the people that it needs to. But when you are in that truth, that knowing, that seed grows, and the more that it grows within you, I think those thoughts and feelings of explaining yourself fall away. I mean, we still get in our own hiccups. Some people have a visibility wound. Some people have, communication issue, or like there's so many of them. Those tend to subside the more you have that knowing and you cultivate that own seed and you watch it come out of you and feel how natural that is. Because it's going to be the most natural thing in the world, right?
Yeah. The more in alignment we are, the more in alignment the things that come to us are. I mean, really, the more in alignment we are, things just flow as they should, right? And yeah, you're absolutely correct. I agree.
And like attracts like. And I've been really sitting with that so much in all my work, is you receive what you give. And I have been trying more to just give goodness and give light and give help, and just to get rid of the energy and shit that is not serving me, and really sitting and believing that if I give goodness, goodness is coming to me. Like, that reciprocation is coming to me tenfold, and I just need to keep giving what I, in my soul, believe is true, and from a place of love.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. And, on a personal note, I had like a real tangible experience with that, after years of doing this work and thinking I was open to receive. When I had my cancer diagnosis and went on that healing journey, I realized, whoa, I have a lot of work around that ability to receive things. But also at the same time, I was really blessed with the visibility of, of how people believe I care for them and have helped and given to them, and how I had this whole community of people that I had worked with professionally, people that I, in my personal life, but also this whole healing community lifted me up. Like, they cared for me. And it was hard for me, and I was really resistant to it at first. Again, I had to do some really intentional work around that. People would literally say to me, "You have done things to help me change my life. Let me help you. Let me love you through this." Like, and a whole community of people. That was really humbling for me. That really was a gift from spirit to help me really realize that. And Rachel, you know this. That's also where I created my course, Alchemizing Pain into Power, in the middle of that cancer journey. finding the gifts and even the hard stuff and building on it, and how that is really, was so in me. That was what that course was, is how I survived. What that course was is how I am the woman who sits before you today. I had done years of work and been a practitioner for years by the time my cancer showed up, right? And it was still like next level for me. Like the woman that I was the day before my cancer diagnosis is not the woman who sits before you today.
And that's why you're healed.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Spirit, for sure.
Yeah.
And all the gifts that came out of that, I mean, they're plentiful, right? And also it helped me help people more. It helped me be able to help even more people from with different layers of my gifts. So, yeah.
I'm curious, of the individuals that you see, and I know that you see probably people that people would not even know that you see, like former CEOs of big companies locally, just like, interesting. And like you said,
really, I have clients from, like, I talk about a lot, like how I have clients from all different backgrounds, and I have, yes, CEOs of big corporations, or former CEOs of big corporations from all over the world, not even just like locally or like all of that. And I have a couple. I've had some clients who are priests who we work on with energy, doctors, attorneys, parents who stay at home, people who are unhoused currently. I have a lot of different types of people from different backgrounds that I see. And that to me is honestly so important, because there was a time that I would have felt completely uncomfortable in the presence of somebody of a CEO level, of social stature, of socioeconomic background. There was a time, because I come from, I come from generational poverty. I come from, not a whole lot of education. And opportunity, if I'm being honest. And so there was a time that would have been really uncomfortable for me. And just the fact that I've been able to expand that, and that I can be in front of, 1,000 people having a discussion or educating them from a completely different background than mine, and it still hits. It still resonates. That I'm really proud of. And also that, that to me, that's the ripple effect, right? If somebody from a CEO level position who has a lot of power comes to me and is telling me they're having a lot of difficulty experiencing joy, that impacts everyone they touch, right?
Yeah.
And so if we can do the work and the healing work around that, and teach them some things, and help them heal some wounds around that, they show up differently to work every day. They show up in their lives differently. And to me, that's ripple effect, right? So many people come to me, especially during these really challenging times that we're having in the world, right? And they're like, I feel like I can't do anything. I feel helpless. I don't, like, what can I do? What do I do? I feel like I'm not doing enough. And because intention matters so much, I always encourage people just to start where their hands are, where their hands can reach, because that ripple effect, the energy, it expands.
Yeah.
So it's like, start where your hands are in your own life.
Yeah.
And then where your hands touch. Sometimes it's as simple as looking somebody in the eye at the gas station and saying, I hope you have a great day. Like that can change, that the energy intent behind that can literally be the same, the thing that sometimes saves somebody's life that day.
Because somebody was nice. It's like if we all just clean up our own side of the street, because we can worry about collective problems and large problems. And realistically, there's nothing we usually can do as an individual about that. But what we can do is clean up us and have that ripple, like you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Like to ripple that out.
And really, from my perspective, that is doing something about it, right? if we like focus where our hands are, it is doing something in the collective, that ripple effect. There are some people who resonate with being on front lines of protests. There are some people who resonate with donating money because they have access to a lot of resources. And there are some people who work with people in this capacity to do that. There's lots of different ways to do it, but yeah, I agree. It's, where your hands are.
Yeah. Is there a common, if people are looking for something and I'm like, Jenn is the person that you need to see, what is, to the extent there is a theme of who would come to you for the work that you do, and what is the experience that they can expect when they walk in the door, just so that people have an idea of like, oh wow, that sounds really interesting to me, and that does sound like what I need to be doing. I think I do need to book a session.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, so I'm an eclectic practitioner, and that I've had many teachers and learned many modalities. And what resonates with me is what I incorporate into my practice, what resonates with my gift structure, because that helps me do my job to help people better. I really individualize sessions. So you might, like, if you have, which as you've been a part of, right, groups of people who if I get groups of people I see together and they all explain their experience. Every single one of them would be a bit different, but there are some common themes, such as the empowerment piece. And and every time you leave a session with me, you've learned not only something maybe more about you, but also about a tool and things that you can do practically outside of sessions to feel empowered in your journey. But really what it is people will come in, we sit down, we catch up a bit, we talk because I again, we're co-creating a wellness journey together. So, whatever you bring to me that particular day, we talk about it to figure out a plan. And then we go to the healing room and we do the work where somebody's on the table. I use different tools depending on what I'm called to do. Shamanic tools, some elemental tools. There's all kinds of different things. And then we do the work. I do what I refer to as hybrid sessions too. There are people who come to me specifically for healing work. There are people who come to me more for coaching work and to learn and for intuitive strengthening, gift training, those types of things. So really, it's really individualized. There's a reading component to everything because, that's how I get information. I don't have control over the content as much as I have control over delivery of the information and what I do with it. Pattern recognition and receiving information from spirit team and the intuitive aspects of the information that I get, and then we implement it.
Yeah.
And so again, it looks different for everybody, but there are common themes.
Yeah. 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 I appreciate you sharing that, just so people can get, because obviously every experience is different. And some people are maybe new to this type of work and they're like, okay, so like, what's going to be the vibe? What's going on? Where are you taking me? Whatever. And I've just loved, I'm a very sensory person. So I just love the experience of having the chat, figuring out what we're going to work on, and then going on the table. And then you have this beautiful bird music playing. And then you just start laying crystals everywhere on me. And then, you're like, okay, here comes the sacred smoke. And then, like you said, then you're talking to me the whole time and we're getting into it. And, it's a beautiful, and you make it feel like it is such a healing experience, and the talking is healing, obviously, but to actually be in a state where you really feel like I am receiving medicine right now is incredible. It's such a peaceful, wonderful experience that I hope many people get to experience.
I'm so happy to hear how impactful it's been. That's a blessing to me. And thank you for that.
Yes. Well, with all of my guests, I ask this sentence that I would love for you to finish. You can answer it in relation to your practice or just as a truth that you have gained in your wisdom through life. And the sentence is, I know I'm finding my way when.
Mm-hmm. That's a really great question. I would say where I am today, I mean, really, overall, it goes back to the authenticity piece of things. I know I'm finding my way when I can show up authentically who I am completely to myself first and foremost and to the world. That is how I know when I'm on my way. When I'm on the right path, when I don't have to feel like I need to hide who I am or be small. To me, that is it. I can go back to some very pivotal times in my life, and this version of Jen that sits before you today would be able to go back and say, just be who you are. That's enough. That's more than enough, and everything will fall into place there. So I would say that. Yeah.
Yeah. That hits because that's what you've done for me is you've reminded me of who I am and my truth and to not be afraid and to be authentic. And when you live in that power, oh my God, it's
There's
just like
freedom there, isn't there? There's
like my
freedom.
heart right now just feels like so open and so expansive. And that's my word for the year, expansion. And I feel like I have reached that at this point. And I'm like the sky's the limit. I mean, I truly feel that way. And I would, anybody out there is like struggling with this, Jen will help you remember who you are, and you will be living your best life soon enough.
Yay.
Well, thank you, Jen. I
Thank you.
know you are such a busy gal, and I just appreciate you taking this time to educate us on what you do and sharing your gifts and your wisdom and your wonderfulness. And I hope people find you if it feels right for them. You have been a godsend for me, and I can't wait to continue to work together and just be on this journey with you because it's been incredible from the moment we met.
Well, thank you. I feel the same. And yeah, such a blessing. I love what you're doing here. I love the bridge building that you're doing. I love the community that you're creating. Please just keep being you.
I will, my queen. Thank you for helping me remember, and I will see you next week.
Thanks. Yes.
Well, thanks, Jen. And I will be emailing everybody your information when this is live so that
Okay.
people can get to you directly, and there'll be
Fabulous.
some social media coverage. So I'll make sure to make you a collaborator. I know you love social media, but
I'm
you're going to
trying.
yeah, you're doing great. You don't even need to try. You're fine. All right. Well, have a wonderful day. Thank you,
You
thank you,
too.
thank you. And I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.